Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, it is Monday, it is new kit day, and this kit is the Monsters and Maidens Mutant Menace. There's a bunch of M's there for a Monday morning. Monday morning with Monsters and Maidens and a Mutant Menace. Say that 5 times real fast. This is a kit from my buddy Dave Bennett. Now, this is he runs a company called Modelworx. He's also the lead in our local model group. And this was the kit that I was going to pick up from him at Wonderfest, but I wanted to wait, and since he lives in the same town I do, I figured I could, not take one of his Wonderfest sales away, but wait till we got back to pick this up from him. And I will tell you, one of the things that Dave does that is better than anybody else I have ever dealt with, and that is the way he presents his package. Now, yes, it's a plain old brown box, but it's got full color artwork on the top. He's got a list of credits of the people who did the work for the kit. This also is a friend of mine, another friend of mine named Chris Wooten, who he did the green slime figure, and he's done other creatures for me. He did the Gill Man. I want to call him the horror of Party Beach. That's what it was. He did the horror of Party Beach, and he also did the green slime. He worked with Dave on this kit. But I want to tell you getting back to what I was saying, was the way that Dave presents his kits. You start with a signed certificate saying, yes, this is an actual kit. This is not somebody's recast of something. This is accept no substitutes. This is and a little bit of history of the kit and who helped work. But all of that just goes into saying you're getting a quality kit by a man who stands behind his work. And we've got some nice full color instructions how to put things together. Not a lot of parts to this, which is great, but you still might need to know which side of the body the left arm goes on. And this was an unexpected surprise. A little ditty bag here with a very nice keychain in it, which I have not opened up. But that I'll get into that later. But this is kind of gets to where we're talking about as far as the production. Now I have taken all of these parts out of the box and put them back on. That's why you see them all sitting on top of the packing peanuts. But look at this. Each bag is labeled. Here are the clear parts. Here's the girl's arms. Girl body. I mean, everything is nicely bubble wrapped and taped and wrapped very securely and labeled. This smacks of professional. Now, this is the girl's belt. It's the only thing that doesn't have a label, but I can tell you it's the girl's belt. I can also tell you why I know it's the girl's belt, because I was not exactly a part of this kit in its production, but I did print up a set of the girl 3D parts so that Dave could have them cleaned up and casted. So everything here is cast resin. It is not printed. Not a single part of this is printed that I'm aware of. But here we have things like the mutant head. Now I want to open this up and see what it looks like. Mutant arms, mutant back, mutant body, and then below the table here you have the throne, and then lastly the big base. So I'm going to start removing some of these from the bubble wrap and showing you the quality of the pieces in a feature I like to call Meet the Parts. Alrighty, I've got all of the parts out of their protective cocoons, and they are put together as best I can. These are very heavy resin parts. Now, I wouldn't even put a knock against it, but the only knock I would put is that they are solid. That's not really, like I said, that's not really a knock. I've gotten used to dealing with lighter parts lately. So when you look at something like this, you have this beautiful mutant head, but it is solid. That's a goodly chunk of resin there. And if I set it on top of the neck, it's just going to fall over, because it's not that it's not keyed wonderfully, it is, but there's no glue on it, so nothing's going to hold it in place. But look at the sculpting on that, and I can tell that Chris Wooten sculpted that. That is, his hand is just all over that. And he's done that thing where he's maybe not like the green slime or the other figures, but you could see where he's definitely taken the actual costume and just made a serious version of it rather than making it look like the hokey costume. But he hasn't overly exaggerated it. These are wonderfully sculpted arms. The only part I am not going to use, honestly, is her head, the gal's head. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it does have a seam in it because this is a two-part molded resin piece. And since I printed it for Dave to get the molds made from it, I have my own copy of this head that does not have any seams in it. So that's the one I will be using instead. I will look and see what you'll see right there. It's through the hair, and that's the toughest type of seam to clean out because you have to get all of the little contours right. I'll try it. I'll certainly try it. But I have a tendency to believe that I'm going to go ahead and use the resin piece or the 3D printed piece just because I think it's got that much more detail to it. Those are the two. The undercut on her hair is a little cleaner on the 3D piece than on the resin piece, but that's the nature of 3D. There is one little build line going through her cheek here that I might have to camouflage, but other than that, I think that's going to work just fine for what I needed to do. Now, there's no decals involved with this kit, but there is minimal lighting. And if I move her out of the way, you can see there is a table here with some nice glass block that is meant to be lit. They're calling it the throne. And then these two towers here get lit. And I can do something neat with the color changing bulbs to shine up. This one will end up shining up underneath the chin of this guy. So that'll give a lot of mood lighting. But we can still have some fun with the lighting. Oh yeah, man, that's heavy. Even on this, looking at how beautiful this base is. That's just a lovely, well done, well cast base. And this throne piece that goes on it has got this wonderful texture going on here. And I will check. I don't think this piece is 3D printed. I think it was cast, but it's even got a switch hole in the back for it. So I think I'll check to see whether or not that'll match the size of the switches that I got, and yes, it does. So I'll be able to use a simple switch back there, put a battery in the base, and we'll be good to go. We'll light that up nicely. But yeah, I can't wait to get started on this. I think the only thing to do is to get some primer on these. Wash these parts first because they are resin cast. Wash these parts and then get some primer on it. Look at the detail. If I had had my druthers, maybe more parts to make up the mutant. It's beautiful and all, but you know, not much building to do per se. So, but also not much seam work to clean up. Just a little bit there on his shoulder ball, but that's going to look lovely, and I'm going to be able to have some fun with some funky colors. Last time I was over, there you go. Last time I was over at the hobby shop, I picked up some Turbo Dork colors, so we're going to see if any of those will find a home here. Alrighty, so it's the end of the day. I've got all the parts cleaned up. Spent a lot of time with the tiny Dremel bits cleaning up the seam work. That's one thing I don't miss about 3D printed parts, is you don't have near the cleanup that you do with cast resin parts. I opted to cut this arm, the hand off of the gal, because I also had, along with her head, I had the printed version of the pistol, And it was a lot easier to replace it with a printed pistol than to clean up all of the seam work around that. Not that it was particularly poorly cast or anything. There's just a natural seam that goes through all of that I would rather not have to clean up. Plus, it allowed me to change the angle of the wrist a tiny bit. If you see it coming around here, this is the new wrist, and I've changed just the twist of her wrist a little bit from the angle that it's cast in. There are a couple details I have not yet put on. The belt I had not put on because I can paint that at any time and put it on. Also, I have not attached either her head or the mutant's head because I want to paint those separately and attach them after they're painted. And I can certainly do that. It's a very clean, obvious seam there. So it's not like I have to do a lot of puttying after it's painted. So it allows me to just to hold it off to the side and do the work on it separately. Well, welcome back. Everything has got a primer coat on it except for her lovely noggin, and I'm not going to do that because it's a 3D printed piece and doesn't need primer like traditional resin does. What this has allowed me to do, though, is to see the spots that I used the Dremel on yesterday and used a very fine tip grinder on. I can, the mess, the carnage. What that has allowed me to do, though, is see those spots now and show me where I need to redo the putty on them because I dug in too deep in some spots. So I'm going to use the stick and the Tamiya plastic putty, and we're going to round over some of these bits, and that will allow me to sand them later. Now, luckily, they're all in spots that are fairly easy to get to and then to sand again. But this is going to help me readjust. Because whenever you have a resin cast part, sometimes the two halves of the mold don't come together perfectly, and you end up with an overlap of the two halves of the mold, and that can lead to a clumsy or ugly seam, and sometimes you just have to deal with those. Now, there's a natural seam going down the side of her leg here. The outside of that seam seems to be fine. The seam seems. But the inside, I can see some unclean bits, smooth. And sometimes you can, if you're clever enough, you can disguise those as either clothing seams, like this is where if she's wearing a leotard there might be a hem or a seam in the leotard, and then again sometimes a clever mold maker will build those into the design and make it look like it is part of the costume. Like this one that's coming down the side of the boot, that is a natural seam for the side of the boot, so I'm going to leave that alone because boots can be attached or glued back together that way or built that way. Now, here's a spot that I needed to fix. On her inner arm, right in here, I noticed a bad overlap, and I wanted to sand that, but in the process of sanding it, I made it too rugged, too rough looking. So I just need to smooth that down, and then I can sand over that after this putty dries. I just dug it down a little deep. So what I'm doing is I'm just slapping some Tamiya putty over the spots. I think I was pretty good on his head. I didn't have too many of those. Now I could see spots where the didn't get in. The primer paint didn't get in, and I can just paint over those with regular paint. I don't need to put any more primer over that. But some of these brain folds, I can put a glop over, and that will round over some of the spots that I sanded down. It's pretty good at hiding the rest of these, and there wasn't really that bad of a seam going around his head. So I'll put that over there. I think probably the worst spots that I noticed happened in his pant leg. The seam going down the pant leg, and I can smooth that off. And luckily, when it comes time to sand it, I can just sand it flush. Some of this I can be doing with my finger just down the edge here. Here you go, just right over that rounded bit. And then there was a spot right in there. But since this is all in that pant leg, it's easy enough to sand. And give me a tip of cue here. I can clean out the folds a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Some on this other inside leg here. And again, this Tamiya putty is thin enough that it can make new folds in the pant leg. Yeah. You look at the outside. See, this outside leg is pretty good shape. It was nicely done. It was only on the inner seam. And I can make up the rest of that with paint. I don't think, or sandpaper. I don't think any of that's too bad. So, oh, stop it. She's not pegged to the base, and that's going to be a problem. I noticed that the other day when I was putting this together. She's not pegged to the base, and I think we could stand to do that. Now, he needs to be stood back like that, and this is the throne. So I think I just need to map out where her feet are going to go, and then I might want to put some brass or aluminum pegging, maybe pieces of coat hanger or something, just down into the floor so that it's a little bit more secure than it is now. Around her belt area, I'm not going to be too worried because the belt covers that. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. Let's do this one last spot on his shoulder. Oh, stop it. Move that back. One last spot up here on his shoulder. These should be fairly big and round, like a football player's shoulders. Okay, he is... See, he's got these big fat pegs on his feet. That holds him in place. Okay, so the lovely lady is pinned to the base, but I can still remove her to work on the base. Now, this head is not glued on. His head isn't glued on quite straight, and it does pull him a lot forward because of the weight of it. When I go to glue him down, I'm going to have to push him back like that because I don't want him to be touching her. I want him to be just creeping up behind, so it's going to have to be pushed back something like that, and then epoxied into place. I did mess up the paint a bit when I drilled the hole, so I think I'm going to take this stuff off and zitz the base one more time real quickly, And that will be it for today. And then tomorrow we can start laying actual colors in. See, I've got the pins sticking out of her feet now. So let me do a quickie on the base. Spray this area off, and then get it ready for tomorrow. Morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. How you doing? As you can tell in the background, I am cutting more masks. Yes, the Station 5 window masks are a big hit. So yes, I'm making even more of them. Starting to mass in some colors, and you can tell blue is for boys, pink is for girls. No, that's not what I'm doing. But you know me, if I have a chance to use anything that is not 19 shades of gray, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that chance to use a bright color. All I need to do now is put some yellows and greens in here, and we'll have everybody. But no, these colors are the undercoat. They are the pre-shaded. They are the deepest versions. Now, I've pulled out the Mutant kit that I did just a few months ago, maybe even less than a year ago by now, I think. And this was the Atlantis kit. Nice kit that it is. It's a little small in comparison now, but I am remembering what colors I chose to use on this kit, and I am remembering to use those on the bigger kit. But the bigger kit's going to allow me to do more subtleties in my painting, more shading, more of that kind of stuff. So what I've started with is a dark blue undercoat for all of this, and you'll see I even put more of a purple on the brain there. But these are undercoats. I will be putting brighter stuff on top of them, and of course I've got all of the deep red veining that needs to go on this. But I painted in his pants, his rather obvious work pants, and I put some pre-shading on those. I'll need to go back and then highlight that again with, this is just I think JN Gray is what I'm going to bring them back up with, but that's just going to allow me to bring the highlights back up. But I'm putting in the basic colors, and that's going to tell me, because these colors are set. The color of the Mutant is set. We know what color he's supposed to be, or what range of colors he's supposed to be, let me say. And I know that the throne is going to be shades of silver. Silver with sparklies on it. The only thing that's not set in stone at this point is what color our damsel is going to be. And so I am looking at colors that I can use that are outside of the range of the other set colors. And then the last thing it's going to tell me is what color this base needs to be. I'm toying with the idea of teals and 50s colors, sort of like a teal green, but I wanted to make sure I didn't have too much of that going on anywhere else. Now the purple or the magenta that she is painted with, her spandex, that's going to allow for, not only do we have a flesh color right in here, but her she's got an undershirt and like a tunic color. Now the tunic and the Miss Compressor is joining the conversation. The boots, if I want to match the boots, the gloves, and this tunic with the collar, I can do that all a separate color. I can make her belt and her holster another color. I can make the belt, the holster, and the boots another color. There's all kinds of shades and variations here. Now, looking at the artwork that was on the box, there was a they made the shirt and the pants a different color from each other, and I will show you to you here on this artwork here that I will do this to. You will see that the her top and her pants are two different colors. I don't think I necessarily want to go that way. They've also made her gloves flesh colored, but I'm looking at the sculpt, and the sculpt clearly has seams in it like a glove. So I'm going to make those gauntlets a separate color. I don't think that I want to make her shirt and her leggings. I like the way I've got this, but I think what I need to do is bring the magenta color down into here, so that only her collar and outer tunic and only that is a separate color. So let me get the magenta back in the... I still have some magenta left in the airbrush. So let me, while I've got it fresh, go ahead and put that, just this right down the center here, just so her shirt is the same color. Are you seeing any of that? No, you're not seeing any of that. And Miss Compressor, the Black Widow, is making her presence known. And I'm just going to... Can you see any of that? Yes, some. I'm not worried about staying inside the lines at this point because everything is just being roughed in. And then I'll go and... as I go around it second and third time, I will mask things off and get them more precise. The only thing I don't want to get any paint on is her head right now. And what's throwing me into this 80s time, this 80s colorscape is with the purples and the teals and the magentas. It's really giving me an 80s vibe, and why that's happening is because the throne has this wonderfully futuristic glass block, which was everywhere in the 80s. Everything, interiors, restaurants. There was a chain called Miami Subs. There was a sub shop that was all purple and teal and coral and glass block. So that's it's the glass block that's giving me the design cue to make this an 80s. Of course, also, she looks like she's in a warm-out, a jazzercise uniform. So that's also giving me inspiration to do everything in an 80s palette. Let me get... I want to make sure I'm not spraying indiscriminately over the other parts, but I do want to... Actually, at this point, I'm just using up what's left in the brush just to get the highlights here. And Miss Compressor is being really talkative this morning. And these are the Vallejo, I believe these are the Mecha colors that I'm using. This is a Mecha, Vallejo Mecha magenta. So we will stand her back up. Now that I've got the pins that I put in yesterday, I can put her back on the base and not worry about how she's smudging her paint while it's drying. And while I'm in that Mecha color palette, we've also got some purple here that I'm probably going to use either as a highlight, or I'm thinking that spandexy magenta would be the perfect place to put, before I even grabbed it, a little bit of color shift. Yes, sometimes I'm too dependent on using color shifts, but in this case I think we could put a pearl violet. I think we could put a nice little otherworldly glow on stuff. I don't get enough opportunities to use it on my regular builds, so when I get the opportunity, I'm going to take it. Okay, and here is the Mutant with the first light blue pass on it. Again, over the dark blue, and this thing is heavy, and it is hard to hold up, so we're going to let that lay. And I'm going to start doing a little bit of the same on the skull here on the head. And I think you can notice the big difference here. The feet have not been painted yet, so you can see the difference in the blues. But we're definitely getting to that lighter blue color that I'm shooting for. It's not the only pass of that, but certainly the first one. I think I've got a goodly amount done for today. But the last thing I wanted to do was to try out some color combinations, and I think I've got them. Of course, the eyes are black, but I'm remembering this red that I had from the last time, which is this game color gory red, which is the perfect color for the all of the veiny bits here on the mutant. I'll just scale them up, and of course I've got a real fine brush to do all of the big veins on the shoulders and whatnot. So I'll just have to grin and bear it and paint those individually. She's looking pretty good now. I have not checked it out outside to see if the sunlight does anything different, but I have to say that those reflective, this bit here, or which one was it? It was this one, the laser face. Not all that enchanted with it. It sure looks like it's a lot more color floppy than what it is. I shook it up really well. I'm willing to give it another go, but I'm certainly not seeing a lot of difference in the color there. I've got an idea for a color that I want to use on the tunic, what I'm calling the tunic part, the central part, and I think I also want to use that on the gloves and the boots. And it is basically almost a well, it's a teal, but it's a 50s creamy teal. I don't think I have got a sample of it here. I may have to go out and see if I can find some at the store, but it's that iconic 50s color that would make a perfect counterpoint to this. And it's the color they made appliances out of, which I think would go for really well for like vinyl boots and the gloves and such. But I'm gonna have to mix that up myself. Oh, and the last thing I did was I put a coat of silver, sparkly silver, on the throne here, and we're gonna let that set up overnight as well. Well, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend, and I've spent the entire morning in vain. I don't know if you've ever had one of those days where everything you've done you seem to have done in vain, but yes, I spent the entire morning in vain, and by that I mean painting these red veins on the side of the mutant head. It takes 3 different brushes. I start with a wide brush to do the wider parts, and then I go to a smaller brush to do the more intricate veins, and then I've got one more even finer bit of veining that I need to do, and I need to find my smallest brush for that. But all taking some of these all the way out to the tips means using a much smaller brush than what I've got. And then I'll put maybe try to put a wash over top of all of this to kind of blend everything together. But that's how I've spent my morning. How are you doing? It is still hot as everything outside, so I don't feel bad about staying in and painting mutants today. So I have had the entire evening to think about this. This is exactly what I envisioned, but now I'm wondering if I'm happy with it. So I decided to go off and start painting these veins because A, I know it needs to be done, and B, I know these are the colors I need to use on it. So while this is happening, I am thinking about the damsel here and what I can do to make this. I mean, she's just one headband and a couple of leg warmers away from being an aerobics instructor. So I'm wondering about my color choices and what I can do to offset some of the Miami Vice-ness of it. So that's what I'm doing. I won't bore you watching me paint these veins, so I'm going to finish this up, and then we'll come back. Okay, it's break time. I have got the veins finished on the sides of the head here. I put a brown wash over the mouth and painted in the eyes again. I'll do some detailing on the slits on the eyes, but we're going to let that sit for a while, and then I'm going to come back and do the same type of work on the shoulders here. Same type of work here needs done. The detailing of the veins needs done. But yeah, that's a good chunk to have done this morning. And then we'll start dealing with the gal. Okay, I put a satin coat over top of the mutant head, and outside of putting some details into his eyes, I am very happy. I'm ready to call this much of the build done because there's not much more I could do to that. This is looking really nice. The washes and the everything, well, everything about it. Just I just like it. So I'm going to. There's some vertical details that need to happen in the eyes that I can do just about any time. I have gone through and first I took the brown or the tan color and I put a coat on his, see if I can lift him up, on his claws and toenails, and that's basically the last of the color masses. I've got the veining done on this arm, on his left arm, his veining is done. The right arm I need to do the veining on, and then the backpack I need to do the veining on. And the feet, I think there's a little bit of veining I could do in his feet, just right in there. But we need to do some washes and some detailed work there to get that to show up. I am mostly happy with how the red has gone down so far today. I need to do this other shoulder. Well, I need to do that other arm. And then I need to figure out what to do with that belt. And when I did the smaller version, I made the belt the same color as the veining. And I don't know if I like that because it takes away from the specialness of the veining. I think I'd rather introduce a new color there, maybe make it a dark brown so that it looks more like a belt and less like part of his skin, like the veins do. So we've got that. I think I should be able to get him finished. If I can get him completely finished this week, that would be a good place to wrap him. Let's make sure that he is. Make sure he is in the pegs. Yes, I don't want him falling over because he is mighty heavy. Now the gal here, I have done a yellow pass on the leotard part of it, the spandex part of it. Hello, Miss Compressor. How are you doing today? We're going to turn you off. Thank you very much. But I've done a yellow pass just on some of the highlight spots, and then another quick magenta pass just to knock down some of the yellow where it came out too strong, and then a tiny touch of the color shift, the orange-violet color shift. I gotta say, I like it better than those other paints that I just got last week. And there goes everything. Oh, the humanity, which is ironic since there are no humans here. Why did he fall over? Okay. We're going to put him back on his pedestal. Stand up for yourself. And good. But hopefully you can see some of the iridescentness here. And of course it means repainting that teal color. But I have a feeling that I was going to have to do that anyway. I just wasn't digging it. So we're going to stand you back up. And we're going to hopefully learn from our mistakes. Looks like I may have dinged the paint there. Morning, everybody. It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. Sing it with me. The last work day on this particular project of the Monsters and Maidens series of the Modelworx presentation of the Metaluna Mutant and Maiden. And I've gotten to the point where I need to divide my energies and finish some things because I was doing that thing where I was dancing around all of the parts and not getting anything particularly done. So I needed to divide and conquer, and I've decided that today, to the end of the first week, I need to finish the Mutant. He is the most done. Now, yesterday I put a gloss coat over top of that, and I think that's just lovely. I've got one last bit to do on him today, and that is to do the veining in his right arm and on the back hump here. I went over his pants last night, and I like how that looks. I've done a brown on his belt that I need to put a black wash over to make it look more like a leather and less like the red veining. So there's some detail work I need to still work on. worked on the claws this morning, putting a wash over those and then a highlight or a dry brush over that. So we're almost done with him, and if I can get him finished today, whatever time I have left I may spend on the bench here, because it's the next closest thing to completed. This morning I went in and I painted the grout on the glass block, because if anybody knows, who's ever seen glass block in real life, knows you still have to grout it, and that gives me a nice little bit of color there, and I can concentrate on maybe putting the lighting in once that's done. So let's get that and kind of get that off the plate for right now. Now the problem with the Mutant is, and it's not really a problem, it's just something you have to think about, there is no way to stand him up unless you use the base, because he's got those rather thick pegs in his feet that are meant to go on the base, and they stand him up just like that, and everything's lovely and good and happy and yay, until you want to work on this base, or you want to work on something else, and then you have to kind of lean him over. So I'm going to try to minimize the amount of stuff that I've got in front of me today, and that includes getting this dish out, getting the fine brushes out, getting just the paints that I need out, and putting everything else away so that I am not distracted. So let's get all of this stuff done and out of the way. Let's see, I might need the dark blue. I'm probably going to need the, put that out of the way. Probably going to need the black wash. I'll need those two items. I don't need this right now. And yes, that is the black wash. Actually, that's Model Air Black. That's not a wash. And we'll get this flush tone out of the way. I'll do some of this cleaning and then I will come back to you. Okay, we're coming up on late lunchtime. It is dark and stormy out. We've just had the alerts come through the emergency broadcast system about flash flooding. So power, I realized after the power blipped that it could go out at any time. So if in fact this video went up on time on Friday night, that means all was well. But right now it's a little bit more nebulous. I have finished the veining on the right arm. Looks good. I still need to put that blackish blue wash over the whole thing. Been working on the belt, the atomic symbol on the belt. I've actually undercoated. I'm going to do a gold accent on top of that, but you know, gold paint is almost as tricky as white paint as far as getting a good finish out of it right away. So if I put an undercoat under it, it makes it a lot easier for the gold to pop. I need to let the veins dry, and then I can go back in with the wash. I'm just noticing a spot here that needs to be corrected or filled in using the tiny brush. And I'm just touching the tips on some of these veins with the smallest brush. And I'm going to see what I can rustle up for lunch. And we will come back to this for a couple more hours work this afternoon before we close up shop. Now, that could all be tossed out the window if the power goes away, so I'm kind of trying to get the work done now while I can. And you know, if I have to take an involuntary break, I can, and if I get everything done that I want to do and still have some time left over, well, I can just take the rest of the afternoon off. So getting him done is the important thing, and then getting the head epoxied on. Sometimes, you know, I don't know if my head's epoxied on straight, so let's get him back on his base. I might be tempted over the weekend, weather notwithstanding, to do some big work on that base as far as using a rattle can to get some color laid down on it, as big as it is. But let's take a little bit of a break now and come back. Alrighty, so I'm back from lunch. Not that I went anywhere, because it's raining stronger than I've seen it rain in quite a while. It's really chucking it down out there, as Wayne would say. So I stayed in, but I have given the Mutant here a chance to dry, and I am pondering the rest of the afternoon now, because it's going to be nigh on impossible to put a clear coat on this if it does not dry up pretty soon, or at least stop raining, because I need to step outside to put the clear coat on, and that ain't going to be happening if I can't stand out there without getting rained upon. So we may have to call it today on account of rain, unless it gets its collective act together here pretty soon. So what can I do whilst I am waiting? There's only 2 or 3 things left to do. One of them is to put the wash over this, and I can certainly do that. And the other thing is to, now that this atomic symbol has, or this logo has dried, I can pop the gold on top of this color and make these accents jump out. And having that underlayment of color really helps with the gold, so that the gold doesn't have to work as hard now. So that's all of those dots on there, like that. How does that look? Well, you know, I'm not wild about it, but I think it will do just nicely for the time being. Maybe I'm having a hard time seeing the gold as I should. But yeah, it's popping out. Let me go ahead and whip up some wash that I can put on. Actually, you know what I need to do first? Before I need to wash the colors, I might need to make up some of the blue and repatch some of these spots where I got a little bit heavy-handed with the red. And you know, all it takes is one little nervous jitter, and all of a sudden your red vein goes someplace it ought not to have gone. So that's awfully white. Let me see what I can do to darken that up. I might need some of this. That's not the one. That's not the one. This is the one. Okay. Well, let me do all this, and then we'll come back and formulate our game plan for the rest of the afternoon. Okay, so it's not actively pouring down anymore, but it is still raining, and it goes off and on. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to get the clear coat on him today, or at least not in time to go out on the video. But what I can do, the last thing that needs to be done, is I can go ahead and epoxy his head onto his neck there, onto his shoulders. Now what's going to happen is that's going to make him even more front heavy and more top heavy. So getting him nailed down to the base in a timely manner is going to be, yeah, maybe you can hear the thunder outside, is going to be even more important. So I may have to just take him off and lay him down on his back. But I'm putting the washes on over some of the various parts, and particularly over the veins, because not only does it dull the red down a tiny bit, but it also settles in that area between the red and the blue, and softens that contrast by giving me a color break in between those two. So I'm just putting some of this on and dabbing it off. I don't want it to lay on there and get too thick or too dark. Particularly, I don't want it running where I don't want it to run. So outside of doing a dry brush pass on his pants, just at the top of those creases, I think what we're ready to do now is to go ahead and mix up some epoxy, because I don't think the I really don't think the CA will do it. I think we need to get the big strong epoxy out, and I just need to get that put onto there. So let me get out some sacrificial plastic and whip up some epoxy. Alright, the head is on, and as I feared, he is way too front heavy now. He will need to be, well, now see, I just lied. But the slightest touch, if I breathe on him too heavily, he's going to go forward. Yeah, just the tiniest little touch, and he will go forward. So I need to lay him on his back while I do the rest of this work. But with his noggin on him, he is one complete mutant now. I think something I can do that will take precious little time is I can go ahead and paint the details into his eyes that I wanted to put in there. And it's just a matter of some squiggly lines, some squiggly, I guess in this case it would be vertical lines. Let's get a nice clean bed for him to lay down on. There you go. Let's get the epoxy out of the way. Get the plastic out of the way. That's something I could do, and just maybe do this weekend, just clean this studio, because it sorely needs it. But that's my problem, that's not yours. Okay, I've got the fine brush here. I think I'll have to check. Let me see if I can find a color reference. But I think that might be the right color. Jungle green might be the right color, just for some. Put a tiny bit of it down and see if I can get away with some squiggly lines here. Take these spectacles off. You know, the worst thing happens, I can always paint them black, or paint the black over it again. But let's just see. It's a weak color. It does not want to go over the black very easily, and so maybe that'll help. It's a question of how many of these I want to put on. That's a little stronger. That's actually closer to what I wanted to do. I think I can space these out. What do you think? Ooh, give him the eye. Yeah, I think that'll work. Let me do the same thing on the other one. It's not exactly the same problem you have with painting eyes to make them both match, but I do want to have the same angle on the... Oh, you hear the thunder? I feel like the men at work right now, because I'm asking, do you hear the thunder? You better run, you better take cover. He comes from the planet down under. There you go. Maybe take that light out from the front. Can you see that at all? Am I getting through to you? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Are you smelling what I'm cooking? Do you know what I'm talking about? Any of those phrases will do. I kind of like that. Might have to come back over it and put a second coat. Just on some of these lines. This is that paint that shows up better the second time around, so Yeah. And I'll let these eyeballs sit this weekend, and I'll come back to them next week. And if I don't like them, I'll paint them over. But I think they are just fine for right now. Well, if I can get any to stick onto my brush, that would be a different story. Still expecting the power to go out at any minute, so far so good. See if I can do that without a glare here. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to lay him down and more or less call him done, because outside of putting the clear coat on him, he is done. Okay, I think we've got our throne, our base ready to go. Got 2 color shifting bulbs here, 1 color shifting bulb in the center, and then 2 blue on either side. And if I turn those off, maybe we'll see them a little bit more clearly. This is all set up so that I can run it on a 9-volt battery that is right here, and then turn it back on. Now that's going to reset the color changing bulbs, but you get the idea. And let me see if I can go get the other parts even though they're not done. Okay, here are all the parts kind of put back together as best I can right now. And that light up there is doing exactly what I'd hoped it would do, which is to shine up on the mutant's face there and give it a more spooky countenance to it as it changes colors. You can see the dame is what we've got the most work to do on, that and the base. But it's starting to fill in, and we'll finish this up next week. And that, good ladies and gentlemen, is where we are going to end it for this week. This is the first week on the Monsters and Maidens. This is the second one in the series from the good folks over at Modelworx. And if you are interested, the address is info@modelworx.com. If you want to send Dave a message and say, Lou sent me, I want a mutant. Believe me, he's heard stranger things from me. So if you want to get your own kit, that's the best way to do it. info@modelworx.com. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. Forgive me. Listen to me when I tell you this time. It is modelworxkits.com, and that is with an X. MODELWORX kits.com. Modelworx Kits. We'll leave that up there so that you can freeze frame it and see it. But yeah, this is the first week on this build. We'll finish this next week. Like I said, I almost wanted to call it on account of weather today, but we got this. Oh, look at that little mutant. Face only a mother could love. The Modelworx Mutant. And like I said, the damsel we'll do next week. We got the lights in the base, and that's kind of fun. We'll finish off that base. And that'll be happening next week. So until then, y'all be safe, be smart, be kind. We're all together on this island Earth, and we all need each other. So don't make it any harder on the rest of us than you need to. And we'll see you here next time.